Hello, everybody. This is Wraith, and it is, wow, July 20th, 2011, with the 106th Fleets podcast. In here with me today is Jeremy, Frost, Williams, and Nurio. We also have two observers who probably won't be talking, and tonight's podcast is brought to you again by the 106th Fleet. If everybody would go ahead and introduce themselves real quick, at least the ones who are talking, and we will get right into our topics after that. Starting with Jeremy, our fleet founder.
Hey everyone, Jeremy here, checking in.
This is Williams.
Neuro, Lieutenant in 106th Fleet.
Okay, well, we have a very small crew here. Frost is observing, as is Brandon and Michael. Frost is one of our commodores. Sorry, Frost. Brandon and Michael are commanders in the 106th Fleet. Okay, the first topic is Season 4. Love it, hate it. Some of the my personal opinion on it is that some of the updates are okay. Some of them are meh, and others I don't know about. So, Jeremy, what's your opinion on this?
I liked Season 4. It had some good updates. I was really looking forward to the Fleet ActionQues. I stated that actually in the last podcast, and it did give the community some fits and some problems at first. And the way I understand it working now is that you actually have to go to the queue now to enter a fleet action. I would still like to keep it the either or, kind of like the PvP is. And again, that's just what I heard. I haven't verified it yet. But other than that, Season 4 didn't quite bring out as many people as I thought it would. But it still was a much needed content update.
Williams?
I didn't notice much content update. I mean, the only thing I noticed that they pretty much did is added ground combat.
Nurio?
Changed to ground combat, I mean.
Nuiro.
Neuro, yeah. Well, I actually like it. I think they did a good job overall, and I'm looking forward to more. I mean, I guess things take a little while to get going, and I mean, they need more content, but I'm sure that's been a complaint since day one.
Well, I did want to point out that Season 4 was not going to all be released at any one given time. I was told that Season 4 would be releasing out throughout this month and probably part of next month. So one of the things in tomorrow's patch that we're getting is the Starfleet Academy down on Earth. So I'm really looking forward to that. It is a social map, so I don't think there's going to be any missions associated with it. However, you will be able to use the map in Foundry missions. So those of us and other people that wish to create Academy missions for their fleet, training missions and things like that, the Academy might be a great place to start with that.
I wanted to add something else too. I see a lot of people complaining in Zone and that, and I just really hope that the squeaky wheels don't affect the outcome of the patch, honestly.
I can tell you something that came out with Season 4 that I like the idea, and I wish they had brought it about earlier, or had given it to some of the members, like the lifetime subscribers. Hint, hint, for free is the extended bank slots in both your personal bank and in your personal inventory and your bank. I like being able to buy them.
Well, but they capped us at four of each per character, so once you hit 4, you can't buy no more. Well, you can, if you want to donate your money, I guess, but any purchases beyond 4, the store will take your money but not give you anything for it, so just make sure you're aware of that when you do go out and buy them for your characters. You don't buy any more than 4 each.
I think they should have given us more than just 48. I think they should have given us basically another page for us to be able to bank, basically like the fleet bank is. Multiple pages to put items into.
Yes, I would have loved, I agree with you, I would have loved to have been able to buy personal bank tabs.
Exactly.
Well, and I wish they wouldn't have capped us. I wish we could have bought as many as we want. I mean, we're giving them our money. Yeah, I know server space and memory space is limited, but that's what we're giving them our money for, so that they can pay their salaries and whatever else they have to do to their programmers, but in turn give us stuff that we want. So capping us at 4, I think, was kind of a downfall, but a fail there. But we'll see as time goes on, and maybe as the game progresses even further, we'll get more memory space, and we can possibly upgrade that later.
Yeah,
I know
their concern was that they did it was every thing that's stored takes up space, takes up memory, and they didn't want to give out too much memory to everyone. But hopefully they'll add it later on.
I do want to say, though, I was one of the first people that I think went out and bought them when I found out they were there, and I haven't used them yet, but I'm sure I will. I never maxed out my bank, which is the one I should have done before my inventory, but I look at it this way. If my inventory's maxed out, I can carry a little bit more on me what I keep in my bank and not have to run back and forth all the time. I can always just keep it in my inventory.
What about the C-store? I like what they did there, too.
Oh yeah, the C-store looks beautiful. Now I can actually tell what I'm buying.
Ah, yes, you're talking the UI interface the new UI interface they gave us.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I love the user interface.
Also, what they did with the ship, buying ships at the shipyard is awesome, too.
I haven't been there yet to check that out. That's something I haven't even heard that they redid that, so that's something to look into too. So,
are you talking about the one that's over on Kronos?
Well, maybe I missed the ball, but the one that's actually in the Earth space dock.
I will check. I will head over there and check that out now. In the meantime, I do want to say though that I hope these UI enhancements they're doing is a prelude to what is to come with the actual UI in game, because I know DirectX 11 has not released yet, and I think they took it out of Tribble because of some problems they've ran into, and I don't think they've fixed it yet. But if anybody notices the UI in this game, when you hit Alt F12 to remove it, on most people will see a dramatic increase in frames per second. I increase anywhere from 25 to 30 frames a second when I remove the UI from the window. So it really helps out, especially in the crystalline entity, where you get a lot of things on the screen at one time and you literally can't draw the screen no more. That's the only way I can literally fight the crystalline entity, is to remove my UI off the screen because of all the shards, and especially when you get a full map of players plus the shards.
Well, I haven't been able to even to get into any fleet actions, so I haven't noticed it at all.
I've noticed that too. If you enter a PVE queue, if it doesn't engage in like 30 seconds, I don't know that it ever engages, because if you wait around, it seems like it never happens. But if it goes within 30 seconds, then it's all good.
Not to change subject, but I am sitting here at Ship Requisitions right now, and I am looking at the new graphical interface, and I'd have to say it's pretty sweet.
Okay, since we went ahead and jumped to our third category, we'll go ahead and talk about our third category. What do you guys actually think of the PVE queues? I haven't had a chance to explore them fully yet, but it seemed like a really good idea, and Jeremy was really enthusiastic last time we talked about them. So,
well, I think it's a good idea, and I still think it's a good idea. But I just also think they should give people the option just to enter if they want to. I think they should keep it private and sociable. Because I've recruited a lot of people. For the fleet actions.
Honestly, I'm really digging Starbase 24 now. It's pretty cool.
Well, as far as the fleet action queues go, what I'm very enthusiastic about is the fact that we as a fleet try to do things as a fleet, regardless of rank, and we do the fleet PvP. We do as much as we can that the game allows us to do within the game. So, yeah, the low level guy that comes into a PvP is usually the easy first target. However, we do try to, lay low and on the lower rank guys, give them a fair play, a fair shot at it. But the nice thing about these fleet action queues is you can get ranks opposite or separate ranks in a map together now um, to play together on fleet actions. So again, that's kudos to Cryptic on that part of it, giving it so that fleets can actually mean something in this game, that fleets as a fleet can go in and do something together and not be restricted by what rank or what level they are, and so on and so forth.
I agree. I am still looking forward to the PvP queues where, at least in the private matches, Klingons and Feds can actually group together when you have Klingons and Federation on the same side. But, that's just a wish, not a need. Anyway, since I killed the topic real quick, anybody else on the PvE Fleet Actions queue?
It's a long ways from finished in my books, but it's a great first start.
I would have to agree with you there.
Okay, well, I agree with that as well. Nurio, do you have anything to say about the PvE queues, the Fleet Action queues, sir? Or anything else to say?
I pretty much said all I need to say about them.
Roger that. Okay, we're going to move into our next category, and it's ground combat. Being a first-person shooter player, I like the changes to ground combat. I am also, this is one of the few MMOs I actually play, so it has taken me a little bit to get used to in ground combat. Jeremy?
I'm a first-person shooter. However, I'm not very good at it. I do like to play them. But again, like the PvE queues, it's a great first start, but it's a long ways from being done. And I know they're not even anywhere close to being done with it, so that's really a good thing. But, there are the keybinds and everything in STO to set up hotkeys and stuff like that for your ground abilities when you're in over-the-shoulder shooter mode. But I really miss the ability to click. With my character, I'm a clicker when it comes to ground combat. I love to click things and make sure I don't like to have to remember 50,000 key combinations to make something work. So that's the one drawback I definitely see with over-the-shoulder shooter mode. So
Yeah, I have to agree with you there.
But I'm sure there are some out there that are definitely, making good use of it and have figured it out. So,
Well, I haven't even tried the over-the-shoulder part. I've just been doing it the way that we standard it.
Yeah, that's what I do too.
I have to say that I love the fact that the ground combat portion's a lot faster now. It seemed like, turn-based a little before, but I don't like the fact that your weapon is on 1 and 2, which is with your mouse buttons 1 and 2. I think they should be separate,
Yeah, I don't
so
like
you
that
can
either.
use those keys. As like a healer, I'm screwed anyway. I really can't use the over the shoulder, but it's interesting.
Well, I typically use my mouse to move. Clicking the button, both of them at the same time, and now it's whenever I click the mouse button, I'm shooting. I just don't like that.
That, and it doesn't follow your target correctly either. It like sticks there, and your target runs over to the left.
Well, in the first-person shooter, you're not targeting anyone. It's just free shot, basically.
Well,
No,
if
you
your
are
weapon-
targeting.
If your weapon has like a 1 second shot, the target will move out of the way, and you're still shooting next to their head.
However, you still are hitting them. That's what that reticle is. It allows you to shoot anywhere. It's kind of one of the drawbacks of the system, and you can shoot there is no more such a thing as a constant target when you're in over the shoulder. Wherever your target is pointed is what you're shooting at. So if you move around a lot and you are hitting your button to fire, wherever your reticle's pointed is where you're firing. But if you had a target selected when you did fire, you're still hitting that target. However, there is a problem with auto fire in that system. Auto fire in if you hit button 1, does not auto fire. However, if you hit mouse button 2, it starts your secondary shot, your heavy hitting shot of your weapon, plus it throws the first one in auto fire, and then you have to click both your buttons to shut the auto fire off. At least that's the way I have it set. And if you try to move those powers out of those slots in over the shoulder shooter mode, whatever gets put in those places outside of gets turned on auto fire. So like if you throw in, like if you want to put your in 1, 2, and 3, or no, slots number 1, 2, and 3, so you have to hit your 1, 2, and 3 key up top on the keyboard. It'll whatever you put below it where normally they sit will go into auto fire, which I thought was kind of funny.
I don't know this for sure, but for me personally, it seems like the combat bar is missing. It needs a lot of work for me to be able to use over the shoulder first person. And be able to heal effectively, and even for that matter, DPS effectively.
I think they just need to take the firing out of the buttons, the mouse buttons, and put it back to 1 and 2 when you're in that mode.
I would disagree with that and say that it needs to be something other than 1 and 2 when you're in over the shoulder mode, so I can put something else on the combat bar at the 1 and 2 slot, which actually is the most important 2 buttons. Are the closest to where your fingers would be.
I am playing with my HUD at the moment. Sorry, I was a little bit distracted. Again, I like it. I need to get used to it. It is a work in progress, so just like a couple of Jeremy has said. And go ahead, sir. Sorry.
I was just going to say before we move on, there was one thing in Season 4 that we totally overlooked, and I don't know how many people actually know this yet or have read the patch notes on it, but you can now select the shuttle from a person standing in your transporter room in your ship from anywhere where you're at. However, it is only a shuttle or a fighter. You can't select another ship, and you'll go back to that ship you started on when you use your shuttle person to transfer ships. So, like I said, I don't know how many people knew about that. I just wanted to pull that out there, that it is the first step to a shuttle bay, which is a good first step.
I have seen it. I do like it.
What about your shuttle's bridge? That's pretty cool too.
Yes, that was another major advancement. So I mean, now we can see the well, I wouldn't necessarily call it a bridge, but the interior of your shuttle is now visible to you.
We need to test out how many people we can get on the interior of a shuttle.
That's a good one. I never thought of that.
I know you can get at least 2 in there.
I will go and try it right now.
Maybe we should have some kind of function on a shuttle.
Well, we did have an event one time, how many people we could get on a ship bridge, but I think we actually hit that one day and found out it's 20. So that is another request. Cryptic, if you are listening, release our number of people on a bridge so that we can have as many as we want.
Could you imagine 20 people on one of those shuttle bridges?
Standing shoulder to shoulder.
I wonder what the captain's yacht bridge looks like.
I think they're all the same.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, but that is cool. It definitely, if you're going to run the vault. Hopefully they add more missions like that too, where you actually need a shuttle.
I hope they don't. I hate shuttle missions.
That mission's fun, man.
Yes, that's what I'm thinking of the shuttle. The shuttle transfers will be great for, is doing the vault and crafting the Delta Flyer. You can switch instantly. But, sorry, Ray, didn't mean to cut you off, but I do want to say we need one thing when it comes to this ship switching things. We need the ability, we have the ability to lock our power trays. Now we need the ability to lock our bridge officers for each ship, so that we're not having to re-sanction our officers into what slot. I mean, my officers should be smart enough to remember what slot they were in on each ship when I transfer ships. So again, Cryptic, if you're listening, we need the ability to lock our bridge officers in their assignment slots.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that because that's the number one reason why I hate going in the runabouts is because I got to do all those powers all over again.
Well, if you lock your power, it's not so bad because if you lock your power tray before you leave the ship and you have everything set the way you want, all you have to do is replace your officers in the slots and it should put everything back in your power trays where they were. However, if your power tray was not locked when you left that ship, they will go wherever they want. So keep that in mind. Best thing to do though is take a screenshot of your UI with all the windows expanded. So that way you have a quick reference, keep it somewhere, keep it in a subfolder of your cryptic screenshots folder like I do. And if something ever does get messed up, you've got a quick reference. I took a screenshot of where my bridge officers were sitting, what slots they were in, and where the powers were in each of my power trays.
Yeah, you kind of start to wonder how confident your crew is when they're asking you where were they sitting.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Wraith, I apologize. Floor is yours.
It's all good. I'm still rearranging my head, so I'm kind of. Anyway. Yes, I just discovered that I can stretch my bridge officer's power tray out, and now I have one long line across the bottom of my thing. It includes all of my current powers that I have open. Anyway, all my bridge officers anyway are now stretched across the bottom of my screen. Anyway, our next topic. I think we were just through with ground topic. We skipped back to season 4. Borg adaptation and ground combat. Are they doing that in space too? Are the Borg ships adapting in both space and ground, or is it just
No,
ground?
it's just ground. It's just ground. It's kind of annoying. You can't tell if you're adapted or not because everybody else is. The adaptation should only pop up if your weapon is adapting, not everybody's.
But I think I've noticed in the ground combats we've been doing though is you're getting the adapted above their head without you even having to shoot at them, and when you do shoot at them, you're getting one hits or one damage hits. So I don't know how if that is how accurate that is yet. I mean, I would like to see it the other way so that if your entire team is firing on them, if everybody has anti-proton and one guy gets them to adapt to anti-proton, it adapts them for everybody on the team. That's the way it should be anyways.
The possibilities for the Borg and adaptation are almost just scary, but I don't like how the chain gun cuts off in the middle of its firing, where all of a sudden they're adapted.
Do you get the full firing sequence out of it, though?
Negative. You get like half of it.
Yeah, they are adapting a little too quick. I would say that I like the adaptation feature. It's more true to the Borg than anything. But we've got to do a little longer before they adapt.
And I'm not even sure what the answer is, but the remodulator sure seems like it takes a long time mid-combat. I mean, maybe that's supposed to be how it is. I don't know.
Well, if you noticed on Nemesis, they were getting to the point where remodulation wasn't working and it was taking them longer and longer to get even one or two more shots off before they adapted. So I think that was the intent of the remodulator. But I noticed that too. It seemed like it was a little bit longer than it needed to be.
And it didn't seem like it was reliable either. I mean, I don't know if they have a certain frequency and maybe we're hitting the same frequency. I don't have a clue, but sometimes it seemed like one shot and other times it seemed like 5 or 6 shots. And then honestly, melee weapons, anything melee or kinetic probably shouldn't have anything to do with remodulation.
They don't, according to the patch notes. Have you noticed that they are?
Yeah, melee weapons, they adapted to that.
Because in the patch notes it says, or fight hand to hand. Use your remodulator or fight hand to hand.
One of the times fighting the queen, to knock the drones off in the corners, I got out a batlet and basically it didn't do anything after a couple hits.
Well, the Borg adaptation definitely is a nice added touch. I always thought it was. They always had some sort of adaptation because if you notice when you shoot at them, their shields would be down for the first 3 or 4 shots, and then all of a sudden their shields would come up. So I'm wondering if that was their first attempt at some type of Borg adaptation.
And really, the adaptation was one of the biggest, fears of the Borg. So I'm definitely glad they added that. It's part of the mystique, I guess.
And this is my yacht.
We are all on Williams's bridge of his yacht right now. There are 5 of us, so we have confirmed that you can get at least 5.
And much more than this would make it really, really confused.
Yeah, because everybody's... Oh, was that a split beam there, Brandon? That looked pretty sweet.
And friendly fire is off, by the way, in case anybody was concerned with over-the-shoulder mode. You cannot kill your friends.
The holodeck safeties are on. Literally, because this is the holodeck server.
This is ridiculous. Half the ship's taken up by shields.
Okay, now our last topic in ground combat was supposed to be whether or not the Toons, or how much they nerfed characters.
Oh, too much.
Well, the gamer's always going to say they nerfed them too much.
I haven't noticed much. I mean, explain to me what they've nerfed. I guess I missed that part of the class.
The only time I really ever notice it is in Infected, and that's the only raid that I've ran since Season 4 came out. Now, regular ground combat, I haven't noticed that I'm nerfed.
I've noticed it. I've noticed it Infected. I could go through Infected without dying once. In this last Infected run, I died at least 5-6 times.
Yeah, but you have to admit that the actual trash, I guess you'd call it, in Infected was easier than it was in the past.
Well, everything about Infected is easier right up to the Queen's room. But honestly, I mean, we say the topics here about characters being nerfed. What have we heard that's been nerfed? I know science is always saying they're getting nerfed, but what have we actually physically seen in writing that they were saying that they were going to nerf?
Shields drop almost instantly after the first barrage from the enemy.
You're talking your personal shields.
Yeah. Sometimes, I mean, if you're an engineer, you have to put down the shield generator instantly before even attacking any enemy, just to keep your shields up.
Well, I think that's good in a way, because honestly, what's the point of having the pet? Yeah, but I mean, that's what you carry an engineer on your away team for. You know, I mean, a properly equipped engineer is going to be your lifeline, especially if he's like I said, properly equipped, because your engineer should be able to lay down the shield generator and keep everybody's shields up. Because honestly, what's going to be the point of having pets like a shield generator, for example, or a health generator, if they're not needed? If everything else you do can account for that, so the engineer's purpose is pretty much gone at that point. If you can carry hypos and everything else to do it for you, why would you need an engineer on your team? It gives to me, the way now that I understand what you guys are talking about, it gives the engineer or science or whoever is there reason to actually use their powers that are associated with their class.
It just needs to be adjusted a little bit. That's the thing. It's a brand new patch.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying it doesn't. I mean, everything when it first comes out, you know, is a great start, but always needs improvement.
I believe that we should have been nerfed, but I think they nerfed us a little bit too much.
To be honest, it kind of seems like now that you need to spec into ground to be effective on the ground.
Yeah, but most people aren't going to do that, because most people don't care about ground combat, even with this change. So
Well,
they're
I
not
mean,
going to do it. Most people aren't going to do it. I thought bringing on the new combat system was a great idea, but then they nerfed it so people wouldn't want to get into it again.
But see, for ground combat to mean anything, then you have to be, if you're going to spec into ground combat, then it has to mean something. So to do that, that means you'd have to be less effective if you're not spec into ground combat. And which, you're right, the people that are spec into all space, they're only going to do space all the time, which, you know, if that's what you want to do, that's fine. But most people try to do overall, you know, everything. So you're going to have to find a happy medium between the two.
True. I honestly have said this before, though, that space and ground, they're separate, but they need to be separate in the skill tree too. I mean, as far as your point, you should be able to equally spec. You know, have enough options. You know, in both space and ground, like we do now, that you can't completely spec for every area of ground, but you should be able to, just like space, you can spec for one area in space, like whether you want to do DPS, whether you want to do healing, whether you want to, you know, debuff, you can do that through the selections they have in space, and they have it for ground too. So, but I mean, space and ground should be separated. I should earn skill points to spend that are only to be spent for ground, and skill points that are only earned to be spent for space, so that, you know, that they're not a combined skill point spend.
Now, do you think that they should give us more points, or should just reallocate points that we already have elsewhere into ground?
Well, see, I think I can answer that question probably with one simple answer: level cap increase. When the level cap gets increased, they're not adding. At least the way I understand it, they're not adding any more tiers past the tier 5 or what they have already. So, like, whatever is in your 5th column, that's it. You know, they're not going to add a 7th or 6th or 7th column with each level cap. So, with that being said, you're still going to gain skill points. So that's going to give us the ability to do exactly what I'm talking about. We'll have more skill points to spend, and those of us that are already spec'd in space, well, guess what? Now we can spend those all in ground. But it's a long time overdue when that happens, because, you know, the way the game makes us do it is, you know, exactly what we're saying. You either can spec moderately in both, or you can spec heavily in either or.
See, I kind of like that aspect of it, and I think they should push that farther, not change it. And because, I mean, I like the idea of that, having a specialty, whatever it is.
Well, I can say that most people, and this is going to be making it very difficult for raiders, is that most people aren't going to spec into ground. So it's going to make going on raids a lot more difficult, because even if the raid leader is spec'd into ground, most of the people that come with them are not going to be spec'd into ground. So it's going to be making it a lot more difficult for the raid leader to lead them.
Well, I mean, who says we have to have all these points spec'd into space, though, too? I mean, especially like infected, the space part definitely seems easier now.
It seemed about the same to me.
I mean, easier than the ground.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Well, I will give you this, and I don't know if it's because I upgraded to Windows 7 or not, but I know they did not change 7, but they did mess around with the maps, and I know you guys are talking about it being easier. Well, I know anytime you can upgrade your visual quality at the same cost of what it took before, everything is going to seem greater and better and easier. I noticed ground combat for me is a lot easier, because it doesn't, I mean, I never really had an issue with choppiness, but the clarity is so much more there. It makes ground combat that much more enjoyable to me, so therefore I like to do ground combat more. If that makes any sense.
Well, I mean, that's the whole thing with the ground combat upgrade is you want ground combat to be 50% of the game, not just, I don't know, a side game that every now and then, yeah, I have to hit the ground and it sucks. So it needs to be 50%, and that was my whole comment about the skill points.
Well, see, though, but But there's so many different areas. Well, ground is kind of not. I mean, when you're spec'ing ground for your character. I mean, it isn't different like space. Like an engineer can spec in his deflector dishes, or a science can can spec in his weapons so he can do more DPS. Ground is ground. There's only so many things you can do in ground for spec'ing. I agree with you that the game is 50-50. The only thing that spec'ing in ground is going to do for you, though, in this game, is just make it quicker and easier. You know, to me, there's been times where you could say either way. Space combat in the actual TV shows and the movies have been fairly quick, simple. You sit in one spot, you fire, your weapons can literally fire 360 degrees. You never move your ship and you destroy the other guy. Ground combat, and the next time your ships are flying all over the place and every hit is darn near a miss, or you don't hit nothing. Oh, their shields are still at 99.99999% with a full release of all your weapons. And ground combat's no different when it came to the TV shows. Ones were very simple and the next ones were pretty hard. So it's just pretty much all how effective you want to be in ground. I mean, do you want your ground combat to be quick and fast and easy, or do you want it to be a little bit of a challenge if you're not spec'd properly?
Well, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, if you really want to break it down and to the series and the movies and all that, it's the characters that were important. The ships were important, but it really came down to the characters that made it. So that would be considered ground.
Yeah, but any ground abilities aren't... Anything that you spec into ground abilities does not increase your durability at all. The only thing that it increases your abilities are your abilities. It doesn't actually make you stay alive longer.
It makes the abilities more, like you're saying, it makes the abilities more effective. So, like for an example, your shield generator might give you 50 health points. Well, with being spec'd in pets or however, I haven't looked at the ground because I have no idea. But I'm just using this as an example. So if you spec in your turrets, you could say that it gives you, instead of 50, it gives you 54.
And all my Toons, I have no points in ground at all.
I actually just moved points in the ground, just more to try it out.
Yeah, I have points in ground and in air, but it's air and space. But it's kind of depends. If you're in the game for PvP and you're thinking you're all about space, then those guys are going to put those points in space. The guys that want to raid need to split their points up. Raids are going to aren't going to get. They have gotten a little bit tougher, because have y'all managed to get through infected yet?
We have not been able to get past the Queen's Room.
We haven't really dedicated a whole lot of time to it though either. We tried a few times.
See, I want to state something. I think Wraith hit the nail on the head with this respec. What we're talking about versus ground versus space. Your PvP is next to PvP and raids are where most of the action is at end game. So when you stop and think about it, if you want to go into a space PvP and you are moderately spec'd half and half in both ground and space, and I can't say this for everybody because I'm sure there's some very cunning people out there and some very productive people, but the majority of the average non-hardcore gamer cannot go into a PvP match and survive a PvP match being spec'd equally in both space and ground, or what we'd like to call equally. He has to spec, and even then, it's going to be a run for their money because they're not the hardcore gamer. They don't have the time devoted into it. So that's one of the major things of the coin that I don't think they maybe thought of in the development when it came to PvP. And same goes for ground PvP. Those guys are going to be spec'd into ground, totally in the ground. And however, they are going to be exceptionally well probably in the raids as well. The ground part of the raids.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Historically in this game, space has been the place to PvP. With the ground upgrades, it could be 50-50, or ground could be the place to PvP.
But honestly, everybody, when and this is another side of that same coin. Everybody that's watched Star Trek. They don't dream about going down to the planets and blowing stuff up. They dream of captaining their starship. Well, captaining that starship, not the ground part of it or whatnot. So that's my dream. That's my dream anyway. So that's where I'm at. That's why I like the PvP in my ship, because that's where the dream with Star Trek lies to me.
I'd have to agree.
Well, that's what I was saying earlier, though, and this is, this disagrees with what you just said, but the characters aren't necessarily who you see when you're in your ship, and I mean, the characters are who you saw when you were watching the series or the movies. It was Captain Picard or this other person. It wasn't, the Enterprise necessarily. And then when they're on away missions, it was the people that were on the away mission, which would be more like ground combat.
Yep, I agree. Okay, do we have anything else to talk about on the ground combat? On the ground combat portion of the. I think we've hit about half an hour of the podcast, and it would be a good time to take a break for bio and whatnot.
Yeah, I think we're in a place where we can stop.
Okay. After the break, let me get back to the webpage. After the break, we are going to actually STF Changes is our next category, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the 4th of July party and future events, and after that, the Foundry, and we'll be back very shortly.
Could the 106th Fleet really save you 15% or more on your Starship insurance?
Did the little piggy cry wee, wee, wee all the way home?
Wee! Wee, wee, wee! 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 Max. Wee, wee, wee! Maxwell!
Yeah?
You're home.
Oh, cool. Thanks, Mrs. A.
106th Fleet. Their mission to provide Starfleet a rapid, multi-role response to any threat, including special task force missions or large-scale fleet engagements. Drawing ships and personnel from all branches of Starfleet operations, they constitute a highly trained and flexible task group for any mission. Whether it's battling the Borg, the Cardassians, or the Klingons, 106 is the tip of the spear, the cutting edge. 106th Fleet, boldly going to the front lines to restore peace to the Alpha Quadrant.
Join the 106 today. For recruiting information, please visit 106fleet.com. That's 106thfleet.com.
Okay, this is Wraith, and welcome back. This is the 106th Fleet podcast. We are entering the second half of it. We do have a new person joining us for the second half. It's Commander Seljo Mari. Say hi, Seljo, please.
Hello, everybody.
Everybody else is still here. Jeremy, who is actually our recording representative. Frost, who is still just listening. Commodore Frost with the 106th, Brandon, who is also just listening, Michael, who is listening, and Nurio, who is here participating actively along with Williams. Okay, now we're going to, excuse me, sorry about that. We are going to go ahead and, I lost my place.
STFs.
STFs, thank you very much. Infected has been affected by the Borg updates, and it seems that the Queen's Room has gotten a little bit harder. I'm going to turn this topic over to Commander Williams because he has been through infected most of anybody in here, with the exception of Nurio and Seljo Mari. Well, I guess, okay, there's a few people that have been through infected a lot. I've been through infected a lot as well. Williams, would you go ahead and kick it off. What do you like about the infected changes? What do you not like about the infected changes?
Well, the thing that I don't like, they got rid of the nodes. I wish they would have kept those. It made it a little bit more challenging instead of just being able to rush through the entire map. I bet you if we were good enough, we could probably run from the beam-in point to the Queen's Room without even attacking any Borg, because we could just run past them and eventually they'll stop following us. The second thing I don't like is that they made the Queen's Room extremely difficult, because the Borg now respawn a lot quicker than they used to, so we can't clear the platforms, activate the transmitters, and bring out the Queen. It's difficult, but I think there's ways that we can work around it. There's places to hide that we haven't figured out yet. It's a little bit more challenging. I like it, but they made the progress to the Queen a little bit way too easy.
Okay, so I have another question about you on that progress. Do you know if you can get through the force field once the Queen is out?
Nope, you can't.
Still can't get through it? I thought we were
Nope.
supposed to be able to roll through it. Anyway.
They fixed that a while ago.
Oh, I thought we were actually supposed to be able to roll through it, and anyway. Okay, apparently that was a glitch. Okay.
Well, that is a plasma vented flowing force field, so I don't know. Last time I checked, contacting plasma was hazardous to your health. Sorry, I had to troll you there. A little bit, Wraith.
That's all good, Jeremy. I haven't been through infected since they updated it, so.
I would have to agree with Williams that infected up to the Queen's Room is very, very easy. Even the noobs that are doing it for the first time, I don't think would have a problem. It's pretty much point, shoot, open fire, and miss by 300 yards, and they're dead.
Well, the thing is you used to have to think your way through the ground combat. Now it's just shooting anything that moves and keep on moving. You don't have to think, oh, this group might have a node attached to them. Oh, we might not want to attack this one right now because it could bring on this other one. It's just shoot anything that moves and you're fine.
Wait, they took the nodes out? Am I missing something?
All the nodes are gone.
Yeah, but you could find the nodes on the map, so what was the point? They just maybe need to add another mini-boss or two in between there to slow you down.
Oh, that's another thing they changed is the mini boss, the one before you head towards the Queen. There is no Borg groups in there before him, so basically you got to rush the room, attack the Borg that are in there, draw them out. Don't attack the boss. And you used to be able to go in there, shoot the boss once, and he would follow you all the way out into the hallway. He doesn't do that anymore. After a while, if you don't keep on hitting him, he'll turn around.
So the lure tactic is gone, pretty much, is what you're saying.
It's
luring them out.
Gone.
Totally gone.
Is he easier to kill?
No, he actually is more difficult to kill.
Really, for what you're saying, just running to the mini boss. If they add another mini boss in there, that would probably fix that.
Well, I honestly, I liked Infected the way it was. Granted, change is always good. And I have a feeling that they will never not leave the STFs alone. They will always tweak them, peak them, change them a little bit, because otherwise people will get the routine down and it will become boring and monotonous. So it keeps us on our toes. It keeps our raid teams on their toes, so they can teach us this stuff. Granted, they have their work cut out for them when it comes to stuff like that. But I think in the bottom line, I don't know. I can't speak for them, but I would have to say, if I was to do it, that would be an enjoyable part of that specific group, because things are always changing when it comes to gameplay. It keeps it interesting.
Well, I like game change, but I don't like it when they delete stuff. I mean, just randomly delete everything, stuff that made the raid. Like the nodes, for example. I mean, is the one thing that I'm really pissed that they took out, because it made it challenging. Now it's just easy as hell to run through.
Yeah, I definitely miss the way we could defeat the queen by standing in her nodes using, because I always looked at it this way, is like any great warrior or conqueror or just battle strategic person, they learn to use the enemy, they used to learn the enemy against themselves. So they take the enemy's tactics and turn them on the enemy and use them for themselves. So I felt that that was honestly what we were doing. These Borg nodes are meant to heal and regenerate Borg, but here in the same token, we as non-Borg people or players could come in, use their nodes against them, and actually destroy them.
Right, exactly.
Back to what we were saying about the queen, just a matter of time before everybody figures out how to beat the queen. It's just a new thing. So everybody's still trying to get it down, and pug groups are beating infected. So that's all we need to do is figure it out. It can't be that bad.
Well, I think the thing that with the Queen's Room is what we need to not do is put so many turrets down in the center of the center platform. That is because when she attacks, she doesn't attack us unless she's attacked. So, I mean, if we have all these turrets in the center that is attacking her, she's gonna just unload on us. We need to not put so many turrets in the center because it just hurts us.
Well, I would have to say that the queen's attack has not changed since it probably came out. It's so now we actually have to learn how to combat her attack. I think that's just like we've learned to combat the attack in Cure and Khitmore Accord and so on and so on. We've learned to actually combat the mini boss's attack. Using the nodes in a way was kind of a way around her attack. The attack just wasn't getting through.
Well, I was wondering about that too. I haven't even tried to run the Cure or Khitmore Accord. They might even be easier now.
Well, the only thing that I heard that they were going to change on Cure, and I'm not entirely sure if they've changed it because I haven't been able to get over onto the Cure, is that they were at each transmitter, at each gate, you have those transmitters that you have to activate in order. They are getting rid of the Borg groups in between those transmitters and just putting a large turret. I don't know if it's active or not. I don't know if they've done it yet.
Well, it'd be a good, if we had time tonight, I'd say we'd check it out, but it's a weeknight for us, so, or at least for me.
Yeah, it's getting kind of late for me.
The big thing about the Cure were the nodes, right? So now that those are gone.
Well, I don't know if the nodes are gone in the Cure, but they are gone in Infected.
Correct. I don't know if they're, yeah. I didn't hear anything about them taking out the...
Period.
No, there's still nodes out there. I think.
I was under the impression they got rid of Borg nodes.
Well, it's like I said, it's a good thing to check out and see. If they did get rid of the nodes, then it should be interesting. I'm curious to know if they got rid of the power converters too. Probably not. That seemed to have been a big part of that mission anyway. That's Cure, right?
Those are still there, I believe.
Sounds like something to check out.
Yeah, we should probably get it in a Cure run. But I want to get Infected done. I want to beat it.
Yeah, Infected's kind of like the sought after gem. Once you get Infected, I think all the rest come pretty easily.
Yeah, it should be anyway. All right. We have anything else about the STFs? Though I heard rumor tale that there was a new one in the works. I just haven't heard anything else about it since they go.
We've got
a new one coming up.
Into the Hive.
That one has been in the works for a long time, hasn't it?
Yeah, but he's actually working on it now. He had it it was in the design phases. Now I think he's actually working on it in game. Or you know what I mean.
They were kind of alluding to the Borg attacking the Federation. that season 4 was their lead up to Invasion. So I mean, maybe it'll be something along those lines.
Maybe it will. Maybe it will be. Okay, let's see here. Let me get back to my cheat sheet. I believe the next topic of conversation was going to be updates that we would like to see to Star Trek Online. And we've already covered this a little bit in the first half. I'll just do a quick recap on that. I'd like to see them divide out ground and space combat. Give us separate excuse me, skill pools for ground and space combat. And we'll talk about that after this. I think we'll still have a bit of time left. Sorry, I'm reading messages at the same time. That's why I sound a little addle-brained. We'll start off at the top. Jeremy, what changes would you like to see done to Stowe?
I have been a very prominent supporter of open PvP, and I've had this grand idea of how to implement it, and I think it would be really great. And basically, where you would see you could go to an enemy territory. You couldn't make the first move, but they could attack you. But once you're attacked, either team can openly call at any time during that combat for support. Victor sends the loser tail turning, either whether back to their space. If the victor is in enemy space when he wins, he gets to advance forward. And the team that was defeated or the players that were defeated are on like a 10-minute cooldown from entering that challenge again, or a 15-minute cooldown from entering a challenge with them again. Secondly, and actually the number one on my list, but it's second I'm mentioning it. It's the second thing I'm mentioning here is I would really like to see in this game is updated support for fleet administrative stuff. I mean, like the ability to look at somebody's joined fleet date, for an example, without having to manually type it. Like I can hover my mouse over their character. I can see when that character joined the fleet automatically without having to do any research. Integrate a little bit of the captain's database into that. See if that person has additional characters, and if so, if any of them are in other fleets or if they're in our fleet. The ability to sort the roster by handle, so that fleets can track those members that have multiple characters in their fleet. Because right now you can only sort by character name, and with 500 people at the cap, if you actually reach that, I'm one that doesn't want to have to literally look at each name to find out what the handle is to find out who has alts in the fleet or not. That's what I'm looking for as number one, is more fleet support. I mean, as far as the administrative functions go.
Hey, at least you can find out when I ranked my bridge officer up 6 weeks ago.
Yeah, the one thing that doesn't really matter, which, I mean, it does matter, but it doesn't. I mean, the vault log, I'd like to see more stuff there, and I think the activity log for the news has just as much, if not more, activity than the bank log, and I think that's why they curbed the bank log, because they felt that the bank log would probably take up more space than the news log, so on the server for memory. That brings me to another point, which I just forgot.
Yeah, there's something wrong with the ability to see fleet members, bridge officers, when they're ranking up. I see no point in it. Just my personal opinion, I could be wrong, and if y'all are listening, take out the bridge officers and the fleet news log. Anyway,
oh, I remember what it was. Bring back the captain's database, please. It's a useful tool. I know not many games have it. I know Champions Online does not have it no more. However, I think Star Trek Online is going to do way better than Champion Online, and we need the captain's database back. So please, please, please bring that back.
Okay. Thank you for that, Jeremy. Williams, what would you like to see Stowe bring to us?
Get rid of borders between sector space. Open sector space completely, so I can fly to one side of this galaxy to the other without having to go through borders.
That would be nice.
That's in the works. I thought that was one of the things that was in his that is in the engineering report that's supposed to be coming. Quote
I think it is.
It is coming, but I would like to see it now.
Roger that.
Yeah, some of the sector borders don't make a lot of sense either. Like, you can only hit this sector from the corner of this sector, but on the map it looks like it joins in right here. It's kind of weird.
Well, I've always been an advocate that Sol should be accessible from both Alpha Centauri and Sirius sector block, but you can only get to it from Sirius.
Yeah, that doesn't make much sense.
That is what it is, and guys, if you're listening, remember we want Alpha Centauri and Sirius sector block, and it looks like there should be 2 other sector blocks that Sol sector is accessible from, but you know, there's only the one. Should be 4. Anyway, my opinion again. I could be wrong. Seljo, what would you like to see Stowe bring forward?
I think it's a pretty easy one, and it's get the right scaling on the ships. There's no reason my Defiant should be the same length as the nacelle on the Sovereign.
I agree. I would really like to see the scalings here.
I mean, they have it right for the what you call them? DS9 sector bad guys. What's their name? I just lost their name.
Cardassians?
Cardassians?
Yeah, the Cardassian attack ships, man. They're about half the size of the Defiant. I mean, that's not exactly right, but it'd be close enough. Make it feel a lot more authentic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, sir.
I was just gonna say, yeah, I'd definitely like to see scaling.
And then it would make a lot more sense of why there's so many more misses on the escorts, because they're small and fast.
Sorry, I am alt-tabbing between several things at once. Nurio, what would you like to see Stowe bring forward?
I thought you'd never ask. First thing I'd like to see is ship boarding parties and the inside of the ship be completed. You know, like maybe in the middle of battle, you should be able to run down and defend your ship against a boarding party. I'm not exactly sure how they'd implement that, but I think that'd be a great thing and would bring more of the feel of Star Trek to the game.
But they should keep it optional.
Optional is in what sense?
Basically, do you there's a boarding party coming on board your ship. Would you like to engage them, or would you like your security team to take care of them?
Yeah, that would be pretty cool.
Well, see, that's one of the things this game is solely based on combat. I mean, Diplo was great when they came out with it, but like every which way you turned, it was fight this or fight that, fight them, fight that, destroy this, blow that up. You know, I created a Foundry mission with the sole thing in mind that there would be no ground combat, that your crew or your station members were competent enough to take care of it without you having to come in and always clean up behind them, so to speak. Matter of fact, I've gotten a couple of comments in my Foundry mission. Oh, you know, I was expecting to. Why wasn't there a? Why didn't you have to destroy them and this and that? Well, if in the storyline, if you actually read it, it says the members on the station were able to subdue the aggressors and put them in their place, and they are now in the brig awaiting transport back to Federation territory, yada, yada, yada. So I would have to agree with that, with what William said, is I would like that option that, yeah, you can either engage in ground combat yourself and be a part of be a part of the security team, or you can dispatch a security team for you to do it themselves.
So if you're going to do that, should the option be there that your security team fails, or?
It very well could be, and then I mean, yes, that's a very good point. I believe it should, if that's the route we want to take, that there's a possibility that your security team does fail. However, how often did it actually happen in the show? I can't recall, but in game is, you can't always be canon, so in game, they have to add that MMO aspect. So yes, there always should be the possibility that they can fail.
Some of us just have to secede to the fact that maybe we are the red shirts. That was the flagship of the Federation.
Red shirt always died first.
But it would be cool if you just saw your crew member bar keep ticking down because a boarding party is taking out your crew.
Definitely a good something to see. I mean, I would like to see how they could be creative with something like that.
Well, I mean, this goes along with that too. I'd like to see them finish the interior of the ships too.
I think they should give us more options on the interiors of ships.
Yeah. More options on the interior of ships would be good.
Well, maybe, it should be proportional to the size ship you're flying, and maybe that goes back to what Seljo was saying. Maybe they don't have all that figured out yet, which I'm sure they actually don't, but how many decks your ship should have, I mean, they should have, you get a certain number of decks for every 10 decks your ship's supposed to have, or 100, or however many.
Yeah. The interiors are all the same, whether it's Defiant or Galaxy or anything in between.
Well, it's kind of hard to believe that you'd find a lounge on the Defiant.
Yeah, and an engine in the Defiant is same size as the one that's in the Galaxy. Nah.
Yeah, it's like four decks tall or something.
The Defiant is what? The Defiant is actually a single deck. I think your Fleet Escort is what? Probably 8 times the size of a Defiant. I could see that type of a warp core in a Fleet Escort, but yeah, not a Defiant.
And I mean, that goes back to what we were talking about earlier, shuttle bays and all that too. You wouldn't necessarily find a shuttle bay in a Defiant, and if you did, it might just be one shuttle. You shouldn't be able to choose 5 or 6 shuttles.
There's no shuttle bay in a Defiant.
And then, your cruisers, it'd be huge. It'd be awesome.
I thought the Defiant was a shuttle. Anyway.
Well, the Defiant has more than one level to it. I think there's 3. I think.
I could buy that, but there's not like 10.
Yeah, I mean, just the fact that it's an escort would tell you that they, there's stasis fields and all that. They wouldn't have that kind of stuff. But that's going way outside of what we're talking about here.
Just to reiterate, according to the Memory Alpha Wiki, which has now crashed, I have to reload it. Give me a second. It looked like it said there were 4 decks and 2 subdecks for every Defiant Federation class vessel. If I remember, if memory serves me correct, well, back up. Yes, it's the decks of a Defiant Federation starship. There are 4 decks and 2 subdecks.
So that would be what, 6?
I don't know if they consider a sub deck a full deck. It could be like a Jeffries tube, like I have to crawl through it type sort of deck.
So how does that stack up to a Galaxy?
There's what, 34 decks on a Galaxy?
Yeah, so maybe a Galaxy should have like 10 decks in game. And maybe they should be a lot smaller than the decks that we currently have 3 of.
There are 42 decks on a Galaxy class starship. But not all 42 decks are accessible on a strictly vertical or horizontal plane. I mean, you're going to have some lateral movement there to access all decks on a galaxy.
Definitely. I got more stuff if you want me to move on.
Yeah, if you got something else you'd like to see added to Stowe, go ahead and keep going. I think, Jeremy, how are we doing for time?
We've got probably about, well, we're a little bit over, but that's fine. I mean, by the time I compile this, if TeamSpeak is pulling out dead silence, should be right around an hour again. We've got a few more minutes before we need to finish up.
Okay.
I'll just throw them all out there. I'd like to see multiplayer ships. I'd like to see people being able to work consoles on a ship that a certain person is captaining, and I'd also like to see the skill points and, where they're deposited more clearly stated for what they're affecting. I think that our skill points affect a lot of things that aren't necessarily stated right now. I'd like to see an option to where I can move like my first officer into the captain position on away teams. And of course, I want to see ass loads more content. And I'd also like to see the Dominion as a playable race.
And Romulans.
Yeah, Romulans must.
I think the Romulans are definitely coming, so we won't have to worry about that one.
Sweet.
With what Nero said, the whole flying your into multiple player ships. I am a fan of formation flying. In the Deep Space Nine battle, if you notice, the Defiant, the lead ship, is they're flying in formation as they're going through and attacking ships. I would honestly like to see something like that implemented into the game, where you could have up to 4 players or 3 players lock onto a lead ship. Their navigation computer, like you could get, obviously, of course, this isn't going to work perfectly with escorts and cruisers, but like, for example, three escorts of close to the same maneuverability can lock navigation computers, and it might mean having to push their engines a little harder or taking a little power away from weapons to engines to compensate for the maneuverability. But the lead ship controls the direction of the ship. All the other subships have to do is fire.
So you call that like a formation leader option?
Yes. Matter of fact, I have a thread on the STO forums about it. I think it's died since then, but that was several months ago.
What I was getting at is more like the option for, like, say you to board my ship and you work one of my consoles if you're on my ship.
Yeah.
I think that would be, I mean, it might be boring, but it'd be a nice option to have in the game, especially if you had like 4 people with you.
It would definitely give the multiplayer back to the MMO.
Well, it'd be more like actually captaining a ship, and I think it would go good with their voice chat too.
Okay, I do have one more thing that I'd like to see added to Stowe, and I know that the fleet actions actually sort of compensate it, but I want to see a massive raid event. There only needs to be 1 or 2 in the game, but it would be nice to have 20 or 30 people trying to work together to get something done, and there would have to be, at least 10 or 15 people to do it. Just my opinion.
Maybe, even if they're led by game management once a month or something. I agree.
Me too. Technically, that's what our fleet actions are, but there's really, I mean, one person, if they wanted to spend all day in there, could probably complete it. I know I've done the Romulan Riemann ground one, the Big Dig, and I've done halting the Gorn Advance all by myself. The Gorn Advance took me about 3.5 hours to do by myself, but I was able to do it by myself. So there was nobody else in the map with me when I did it.
Wow, Jeremy. Just wow. You have more patience than I do.
I want to reiterate content. Lots of content for all factions. Every faction that there is. Lots of content.
Okay, and on the content notes, our last topic is, well, it's all about us. We just recently held a 4th of July party. It was hosted by the 106th Fleet. It was DJ'd by Subspace Radio's own Hal Deer. And, it seems to have been a pretty big success. I don't know if was it as big as our last party, or was it the same, smaller, or better, or anyway. I'm going to hand that over to Jeremy to talk about it a little bit, because he was there for the whole of it. I was just there for the very, very, very beginning of it, and then I had to, 4th of July involves partying and fireworks, so I went off and did other things. But Jeremy, I'll hand the mic to you.
Thanks, Wraith. Well, first of all, we tried to schedule it in the majority of the daylight hours for the United States. So, I mean, if you were, obviously the United States was the only one going to be celebrating the 4th of July, but just in case. But anyways, we tried to schedule that for the daylight hours in all the time zones here in the United States. We got a good turnout. Not quite as big like you were asking about the previous turnout, but I attribute that to also the fact that it was a minuscule area in the game. I mean, as far as the timeline, there wasn't a whole lot going on. No new content. Season 4 hadn't released yet. But overall, I mean, above all, we had a pretty good turnout, and I was really impressed with with Subspace Radio's broadcast of it. Hal did a great job. The whole fleet came together and did a really great job that night. We gave away some pretty good prizes. It's the first time we ever gave away actual monetary prizes, or I should say monetary prize. The half-hour prizes were just pretty much our standard prizes as we give away, but our grand prize included 2,000 Atari tokens, which the fleet came together to help supply that, and the winner, his name escapes me now, and I wasn't even going to write it down, but the winner was very appreciative. To win the grand prize, we had a best red, white, and blue looking character. It didn't matter how you made him red, white, and blue. Just that they were used their creativity to create the best looking character in red, white, and blue. So we definitely appreciated the attendance and all the people that showed up, and we're definitely going to do it again. It's just a matter of when.
Wish I could have been there.
And when we do announce our next one, we'll definitely be putting it in the STO forums like we've done in the past. So make sure you check there in the 10 forward forum on Star Trek Online's forums, and that's where we'll have it, as well as our own website under the External Fleet Social Events forum, which is at 106fleet.com.
What I would like to see is if we do it more often, like maybe once a month or once every other month or something like that.
Well, it's definitely something we can look into.
Yeah, I was going to say, I agree
March or I don't know, something. Or I have an event for new stuff that comes out in the game, like Season 4. Let's have a party.
That is one of the things that has made, I think, the 106th name known, is the fact that we are a very party fleet. I mean, when it comes to that, we like to celebrate certain things, certain aspects of what goes on, and that's what keeps us as a close-knit family, I think. Because, I mean, bottom line is if your members aren't happy, your fleet isn't happy, and you probably won't have much of a fleet after that. Party on, man.
Party on.
In the famous words of Garth, party on!
And I want to rock and roll. Okay, I'll stop singing now. Guys, thanks for listening to us today. This has been the 106th Fleet's podcast. Again, I am Wraith. And thank everybody else can say their goodbyes now. And best of luck. Good gaming, everybody. I wish Omega was here for that one. But we'll see you in about a month or so. Thanks, everybody, for listening. And this is Wraith signing off.
I have a closing comment. I'd just like to thank Cryptic for releasing Season 4. I know it's a work in progress, but I appreciate the effort in any case.
I honestly appreciate everything they've done for us. I mean, they've given us this game. It's all and more than what I've hoped for. So I bought a lifetime subscription, so I really hope that this game doesn't fall by the wayside like Star Wars Galaxy did. And 8 years down the road, it's locked up and boarded up. So I really hope this game survives the test of time. I don't think anybody could do it any better.
Yeah. Goodbye, Galaxies. We loved you. We'll never see you again. Goodbye. Thank you, Cryptic, for keeping us up and running. And we're going into, what, a year and a half now? I'm sorry, we're saying goodbye. Williams, Seljo?
See you.
Live long and prosper.
All right, again, guys, our website is the106fleet.com. And, I did want to mention, I have one more shout out. I wanted to thank Hal for the prizes he gave away of his own. He gave away some monetary prizes as well from thinkleet.com. That's THINKLEET.com. And check out that website as well. And we'll see you guys all next time.